Okay, so my son and I flew in here on Sunday, and if the weather today was like it was on Sunday, we would all have to wear snowmobiles here today. So the weather was done with it. So good morning, and thank you for being here for this presentation this morning. My name is Mike Heino. I'm the President and General Manager of the Shop Industrial, and we're located in Lively, just outside of Sudbury in Ontario. And with me this morning is Mark Wally and my son Mike Jr. Just to give you a brief history on our company, the Shop Industrial, 2012 marks our 20th year of business at Shop Industrial Inc. We're a dealer for the Husky, Pinoff Trooper. We're a dealer for the Tucker Snowcat. We're also a dealer for Argo and Centaur all-terrain track vehicles. And we're the manufacturer of the Mogal Master Snowmobile trail groom. We sell those Mogal Masters right across the North American snow belt in both Canada and the U.S. To date, we've manufactured 1,460 Mogal Masters at last count. So in the 20 years we've been building these drags, that's an average of about 73 drags each and every year that we've been in business since 1990. And that's where we're going to go this morning with this presentation, is to the world of Groomer Drag Operation. If you have any questions at any time during this presentation, just raise your hand and we'll try to answer those questions as we go through. So our goal here this morning is to give you some insight into getting the most out of your trail grooming equipment by getting the most out of the drag that your trail grooming unit is pulling. My expertise as far as the groomers go is with the Mogal Master, of course, but much of what we're going to discuss here this morning could apply to other brands of drags as well. But just to get an idea, how many in this room are pulling Mogal Master drags? Good. And how many wish they pulled Mogal Master drags? Okay.
You'd have a drawing for one?
Okay, so we all know that a snowmobile trail groomer can be broken down into two components, the towing unit and the drag that the towing unit is pulling. And for lack of a better word, you want to marry a drag to the towing unit, and you want to make sure that that marriage is a happy one. So the photos I'm going to show on the screen here is going to show happily married trail groomers. This Scandi super wide truck is pulling a drag that weighs about 500 pounds, 4 feet 3 inches wide. That Husky right there is pulling a drag that's 9 feet 4 inches wide, weighs about 3,400 pounds. And that Caterpillar Challenger that you see right there is pulling a drag that's 16 feet wide and weighs over 6,000 pounds. Now that's not grooming a snowmobile trail, but it's grooming a trail nonetheless over the snows of Antarctica. So all of these groomers are happily married because each drag is the perfect match to the towing unit. That's very important to make sure that you can match your cat to the right drag. So if your club or your association is looking for a newer replacement groomers, one of the most important decisions that you need to make is choosing the proper towing vehicle for your club's trail system, the amount of traffic that you have, the trail features, the hills and whatnot, your snow conditions, your budget. But equally important is choosing that correct drag for that towing unit. So there's a number of points to consider when you're choosing a drag for your towing vehicle. Probably the most important one is weight. There is an assumption that the heavier the drag, the better, because the heavy drag will be able to compact the snow better, and that certainly is correct. But you want to keep in mind that too heavy a drag for your towing vehicle may not be an advantage at all, but in fact could be a significant disadvantage. If you have a drag that's too heavy, it can certainly cause higher fuel consumption, higher wear on engine, transmission, components, driveline, suspension, track, you name it. Not to mention performance problems like losing traction on hills, corners, deep snow, etc. So all of these issues can lead to increased fuel and repair costs, and we don't need to be spending more money than necessary. But on the other hand, a drag that's too light, or the towing vehicle that you're pulling it with, and your operators won't be able to produce the best quality trail. They won't be able to produce a trail that's going to last as long as it should. Means then that you have to get out and groom more often, and that's going to cost you more money. Grooming more often costs you more money, just like pulling a drag that's going to cost you more in wear and tear, and fuel consumption is going to cost you more money. So ultimately, you want the right weight of drag for the towing unit. Not too heavy and not too light, because with either one, you're wasting money. Another big important consideration is the width of the drag that you're pulling. The drag needs to be, if possible, somewhat wider than the cap. You want the drag to be wider than the outside of the tracks. And one of the important reasons for that is so that your right track isn't constantly being forced upward. As the season progresses, your trail base settles and you've got slight banks on the side of your trail, and you don't want that right track constantly being forced up on the outside. So you need to have your drag somewhat wider than the outside width of your towing vehicle. Generally, 4 inches to a foot wider than the outside of your tracks is where you want to be with your drag. There are some variations to that as well. You've got to be careful though not to choose a drag that's too wide, which can lead to overloading issues, just like a drag that's too heavy can lead to overloading issues. The wider the drag, the heavier it is. Also, the more snow loading carries, the more drawbar pull is required to pull it. So be careful when you're choosing the width of the drag that you're going to want to use behind your cap. If you need to be wide, there's some provinces and states that pay more money for a drag that is 10 feet wide than they would for a drag that's 9 feet wide. So if you need to pull a drag that's wider, you may want to consider a model of drag that's one step down to get your overall weight a little bit lower. For instance, if you look at our drags, if you went from 11-blade drag down to a 7-blade drag in the wider width, you'd still be able to get that width that you're looking for, still do a good quality job of grooming the trails, but you're not overloading that cap. So be careful when you're going wide. Be careful that you don't overload that cap. Another very important consideration is the length of the drag. Keep in mind that length means flat. The longer the drag is, the better it's going to be able to take out those undulations or rolls that you're going to wind up with on the trail. If you think about a champion road grader that grades gravel roads, the reason the wheelbase on those road graders is so long is because not only do they want to make that gravel road base smooth, they want to make it flat. They want to take the rolls or the undulations out of that gravel road base. Same thing applies to a snowmobile trail drag. The longer the drag is, the more it's going to take those undulations out of that trail over a period of time. I remember a demonstration that we did for a club close to Sudbury where we're at a number of years ago. We went up with, I forget what towing vehicle we had, but we had a mobile mountain drag behind the cap. And we're out there with the operator from the club. And he's watching the drag work. And he said, "Mike, we just drove this trail." He said, "Why is your drag, it's cutting and then it's not cutting and then it's cutting and it's not cutting?" The reason it was doing that was because the drag that they had behind their towing vehicle was kind of homemade thing, nice and short, but it was making undulations in the trail that couldn't get them out. The long Mogal master drag, even though the trail was smooth, we were running over a smooth trail, but that drag was able to take the tops off those undulations, drop them into the valleys, and over a period of time, a long drag will take those undulations out completely. And where you'll feel those undulations is riding down a trail. If you ride down a trail with undulations in it at 30 miles an hour, you're not going to feel them. If you pick that speed up to 60, 80, 100 miles an hour, now you're going to feel those undulations just like you'll feel undulations that like on a washboard on a gravel road. Well, length is very, very important, but you also have to consider maneuverability. The longer the drag, the more difficult it's going to be to negotiate tight corners on your trail. So there's kind of a perfect length of drag that you're going to be looking for out there. One that's long enough to get those undulations out, but not so long that you have some maneuverability problem. The other thing you want to look at is specking the right hitch that offers the best connection between your towing vehicle and your drag. The two most common types of hitches that are used on drags are a straight pistol hitch, as you see there, and the other one is a gooseneck type hitch. Although there are exceptions, most groomers in the East and the Midwest use straight hitches. Gooseneck hitches are found more farther west, where in the mountains where snow accumulations can get extreme, and negotiating switchback trails is a requirement. But east or west, a gooseneck hitch can be a big advantage for light, lower horsepower towing vehicles, such as a utility snowmobile, Kawasaki Mule, that Central that you see parked in the parking lot there. A light, low horsepower towing vehicle can really benefit from the advantages that a gooseneck hitch offers. And there are advantages that a gooseneck hitch offers. And two significant advantages that are there is first, improved traction. A gooseneck hitch can offer better traction for your towing vehicle than a pistol hitch can. And the other significant advantage that gooseneck hitch can offer is improved maneuverability between the towing vehicle and the drag. So improved traction with a gooseneck hitch is accomplished by mounting a fifth wheel hitch on your towing vehicle as far forward on the deck as possible. There is absolutely zero traction improvement to using a gooseneck hitch if you're going to pull it right from the ass end of the cat. Okay, so on a Tucker Snowcat, we have no ability to move that towing point forward on a conventional 2000 series. So a gooseneck hitch on a Tucker Snowcat really doesn't give you any significant, if any, traction advantage. On a vehicle like this lightweight little unit, there is a significant traction advantage. Because if you look at the load that the drag is putting on the cat is pushed down at that point where that green arrow is right there. Okay? The weight of the drag, the ton weight of the drag, the load that's applied, the drawbar pull that's being applied as the drag is pulling its snow load along and cutting those moguls is forcing down right at that point where that green arrow is. What it's doing is it's forcing the tracks into the snow more along the length of the tracks. If you look at a conventional vehicle hitch, that load is being applied right to the ass end of the cat. What it's doing is forcing the back of the cat down, forcing the front of the cat up. So the tracks aren't penetrating the snow as effectively with a vehicle hitch as it would be with a gooseneck hitch. Okay? So significant advantage for that little center right there. That gooseneck hitch is a big advantage in the performance that you can get out of a lightweight, low horsepower towing vehicle such as that. If we put a straight tail hitch behind that Centaur, we run into some performance problems at times depending on your trail system, snow quantities, and things like that. Maneuverability is the other big advantage that you get with a gooseneck hitch. If you look at this configuration right here, us pulling that drag with a straight pistol hitch, quite maneuverable. You can articulate the cat relative to the drag probably 45 degrees or so. So under most circumstances, most of the trail grooming that we do in most trail systems, that's all you're going to need for maneuverability. It's going to be able to negotiate all the trails you need to do. It's going to be able to get you out of the things that I think it's not going to be able to articulate the cat relative to the drag very well. But if you look at what you can do with a gooseneck, the nose cone of that drag right through is almost into the door of that 018. So do you need that kind of articulation during most grooming work that you do on your trails? No. But where that could be a big advantage, and then what happens is the cat articulates underneath the fifth wheel and that gooseneck. That's why you get that kind of articulation. But where that could be a big advantage is doing those switchback trails. I've heard stories of trails that need to be groomed where you come to the end of a trail that just stops dead on the side of a mountain, and they've got to turn that cat around. What they do is they knock the drag off the trail, and they spin right around under that gooseneck like that, and head back the other way. So those are the two significant advantages that a gooseneck hitch can offer. There are disadvantages that a gooseneck hitch has as well. A gooseneck hitch is expensive. Okay, it's got to be designed very strong. That hoop in a gooseneck hitch, when you're pulling the drag off, that hoop wants to straighten out all of that. That's the load of the drag pulling or behind that cat is trying to make that hoop a straight line. So that gooseneck hitch has to be designed very strong. That costs money and it adds weight. So you're adding a lot of weight to the cat with a hitch configuration. Cost is extremely high for a gooseneck design relative to a pit bull straight hitch design. The other thing is you must install a very expensive, very strong fifth wheel hitch on your towing vehicle. It has to be designed to take the kind of loads that the bags will put up. It's got to be strong, cost money to do that. You lose deck space. Okay? And deck space is pretty important in a lot of cases. The other downside of the gooseneck hitch, it's difficult to incorporate a shear bolt. It's a lot easier to put a shear bolt in a fiddle hitch than it would be in a gooseneck hitch. Another disadvantage to a gooseneck hitch is it cuts the corners significantly. On a turn, a gooseneck hitch where it's coupled to your towing vehicle is going to cut to the inside of the trail far more than a piddle hitch. With a piddle hitch, configured as a track vehicle, is going to allow the drag to follow the cat in pretty much the same line. It cuts it to the inside somewhat, but not nearly as much as piddle will. Now, where does that become a problem? Two problems. One is when you turn a corner, the outside of your the track marks on the trail won't get through by the drag. The other problem is if it cuts too far to the inside and you hook a tree, now you can cause some big damage. So there are a lot of disadvantages to gooseneck hitch. There are advantages, but there are disadvantages. So be careful, do your homework before choosing a gooseneck hitch. There are cases where a gooseneck hitch can be a big advantage, and you need to go that way. But in most cases, 80 to 90% a straight hitch is the way to go. So do your homework before you decide you want to go with a gooseneck hitch. Weigh the advantages against the disadvantages, and make sure to make the right decision. All right. So when you're choosing a drag for your towing vehicle, you want to look for design features in the drag that are going to allow you to produce the best quality trail. Ultimately, that's your goal. Grooming those trails is to get the best quality of trail and the longest lasting trail. That's what your riders are buying that trail for, is to get the best riding experience, and that's our responsibility as groomer operators, is to provide that best quality riding experience by providing the best quality trail. So you're going to look for design features like angle blades. There's not much question that a drag configured with angle blades is going to do a better job than a drag configured with straight blades. It's just the nature of the design. Angle blades work better than straight blades. And the more blades, the better, but not to the extent that the snow can't roll through the drag effectively. More blades can actually make a drag a little easier to pull. If you look at the Mogal Master, for instance, in the past we used to make our big selling drag, top line drag, with a 6-blade drag. If we took all of the blades out of our 6-blade 1809 back in the day and laid them end to end, and we took all of the blades out of our latest generation 11 blade drag and laid those blades end to end. We have overall, same overall length of blades. But the advantage that 11 blade drag has over the 6 is each individual blade is somewhat shorter. So when that short blade does its job of cutting those hard packed moguls, it's got a little bit of easier job. Two blades, 3 feet long, are going to be able to cut 6 feet of mogul a little easier than one full length 6 foot blade. So your pulling ability is going to reduce somewhat with multiple blades versus fewer blades. Another advantage, or another thing that you want to look for is tripping blades on a drag. That's almost a no-brainer. With low snow conditions, early season grooming, low snow conditions year-round that we've been seeing recently, you need to have blades that you trip to reduce damage to the drag. Tripping blades will save a lot of wear on the drag, and a lot of cost to repair your drag over a period of time. Another thing to look for is serrated blades. Serrated blades are a big help during the times that your trail is hard packed and you've got to break up that hard packed icy snow. That can happen a lot of times. Serrated blades are a big help there. Disadvantage to serrated blades, they're going to wear quicker than a straight blade. A straight blade has more surface. It takes longer to wear that more surface than it does on serrated blades. But there's certainly an advantage that serrated blades have in cutting the hard packed snow. Another thing to look for is a shear bolt on a drag. A shear bolt is a pain in the butt. When it lets go, it's 25 below zero out there, and you just hook the tree and your shear bolt lets go and your drag is now separated from your gap. But it sure saves a lot of damage to the towing vehicle, saves a lot of damage to the drag, saves you from visiting the windshield and breaking your nose. It's a big help. Right on.
Mike, there's a lot of discussion on grade of bolt. I talked to Klaus, and everybody's got a different idea. Want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, with that particular, that green arrow showing you where the shear bolt is on our drag, that is a full-size Mogal master, one you can pull behind a Husky or a Trooper or a Tucker Snowcat. That bolt is a 1/2 inch by 4.5 inch long grade 2. Grade 2 bolt. Not a grade 5, it's a grade 2. It has to be grade 2. Grade 5 bolt won't shear. A grade 2 bolt will shear. If you put a grade 5 bolt in there, and you know how a grade 5 bolt has three lines on the head of the bolt? A grade 2 has none. There are no lines on the grade 2 bolt. A grade 5 has 3 lines because they start like at grade 2 with no lines, and then they add 3 lines to that bolt to get you to grade 5. You certainly don't want to put anything other than a grade 2 bolt in your shear bolt position if you want it to work. A lot of guys put a grade 9 bolt in there because they don't want that. They don't want the pain in the ass of having that shear bolt let go. When the shear bolt is there, it's there designed to save wear and tear on the track vehicle and on the path. If you won't need a shear bolt if you have the luxury of grooming nothing but snow and you have no issues, no worries about hooking the drag the drag to a tree on a corner, or you have no stumps or rocks to contend with on your trail system. You don't need a shear bolt. If you have that good fortune of having nothing but snow to groom, you don't need a shear bolt. But most of the trails that operators groom across this continent, they have occasions where that shear bolt can let go. You want to make sure you do it. The other thing with a grade 2 bolt, though, keep this in mind, is it's a pain about when that shear bolt lets go. You don't want the shear bolt letting go prematurely. You don't want it to let go because it's worn, and they will wear. Just normal grooming is going to cause wear on that grade 2. It's a soft bolt. Normal grooming is going to cause some wear on that. So if you don't inspect that bolt regularly, and it's very easy to inspect it. You just pick the nut off the bottom, pull the bolt out, and take a look at it. If you see any sign of any distortion or any wear on that bolt where it's been impacted, by the receiver into the main frame on that hitch, replace it. They're cheap, they're not expensive. You should be carrying a half a dozen spare shear bolts with you all the time. You should be inspecting that shear bolt daily. You don't want the shear bolt to let go unless it's needs to let go because you've impacted an immovable object on the trail. Another thing, good quality, quick release hydraulic connections can be a big time saver and save you a lot of cursing at -25. Now this becomes more of a function of the towing vehicle than it does of the drag, but you want to make sure that your towing vehicle is equipped with real good quality hydraulic connections. Those ones that you see right there, you find those on a Tucker Snowcat, you find those on the back of a Renault Husky. Those are by far the best working hydraulic connections that we've ever experienced in all the years we've been at it. They work very, very well. They're a very easy hydraulic connection to get back together, to disengage and engage at -25. When that's your bolt, let's go. Or when you're servicing your cat, when you want this kind of real good quality hydraulic connection. Very important to look for that. You gotta look for ruggedness in your drag that you're looking at. You need a drag that's ruggedly built, tough and able to withstand the abuse that it's ultimately going to be subject to. Drags sure do take a licking. They get beat up real bad. So look for design features that you want to make sure that the drag is well built, nice wells, good design. You're going to have to maintain that drag. Doesn't matter what kind of drag it is, but you want to make sure that your maintenance cost and time are not overly high because the drag didn't start life as a rugged design. So look for features that will let you use that drag as it's designed to be used without having to repair it every time you turn it on. Keep it simple. Groomer operators have enough on their mind operating that cat. They don't need to have a complicated implement towing unit behind them. Keep it simple. You want to have a drag that is as simple to operate as possible, but at the same time able to get you good quality trail results. I mean, pulling a bench spring around is pretty simple, but it's not going to get you good trail results. But you want to make sure that you have a drag that's relatively simple to operate. Again, the operator he's got a lot of his mind making that whole grooming shift work as good as we possibly can. He doesn't need to be worried about putting together things as far as goes making the drag. Adjustable blades, absolutely critical that you're able to adjust your blades on your drag. If there's one thing that drags across this continent have a problem with, it's the fact that your blades are not adjustable. I would bet you if we did a survey, 80% of the drags operating across this continent have blades not adjustable. You need to change that to get that ratio going. But if you don't have adjustable blades, how are you gonna adjust them? How are you gonna get the blades back to where they belong? So we're gonna get more into blade adjustment further on in this presentation. It's a very, very important point that we're going to get into further on in the presentation. A drag should be able to stay behind you on a side hill. That's critical. You want to look for features like skegs in the pan of your drag that will allow that drag to follow you. Early season grooming is a little worse than later on the season. Early season, you know, you haven't built up that flat trail base yet, so you've got a lot more off-kilter situations. So making sure that drag's able to stay behind you and not slide off on those side hills. I'm sure everybody who just operated drag has had an experience where the drag slides off on a side hill. Skegs are those flat plates that are in the pan of the drag, and they protrude below the bottom level of the pan, and that's what stops the drag from sliding off. So skegs are there to stop the drag from sliding off. But you got to be careful that you don't have your skegs set too deep. You got to find a happy place, because the lower your skegs are set and the harder the trail, the more of those skegs are going to ride on that hard trail, keep the pan off the snow and not allow the pan to do its job of compressing the top back to the snow, which again we'll get to later on in this presentation. So skegs are important to have on your drag. How you adjust those skegs is also very critical. The other thing to remember when your drag is sliding off the trail on a side hill, if you drop the drag, the higher the drag is raised at the front, the less of the skeg is penetrating into the snow. If you think about it, right, the skeg is flat. If you raise it up, raise the drag at the front, there's less skeg penetrating the snow. So if you're grooming early season, you gotta have your drag raised up somewhat because there's a lot of stumps and rocks to do with. But if the drag is sliding sideways, what you might want to do is just lower the drag somewhat, get more skeg in the snow as it drops down. You also find getting more blades into the snow as well. So keep that in mind. Lowering the drag somewhat as if you find the drag sideways, it can be helpful. So one thing to keep in mind as well is that one club's trail conditions and severe hills and high snowfall could mean a different model drag from the one that another club with less severe trails would have, even though both clubs have the same towing unit and they have drags from the same manufacturer. What I mean by that is the ideal drag for a Tucker 2000 or a Husky towing vehicle is our Mogal Master NDB 1800. That's the ideal drag in most conditions. But if you take that Husky or you take that Tucker and you operate it in Vermont in a high elevation where they get big snow, that drag might be too much of a load. In that case, maybe a 16 ohm mount. Still 9 feet wide, smaller drag, a little shorter, less blades, less of a pull. Could be the right drag for that particular area. So just because you have a certain model of cat doesn't mean you necessarily have to have the same model of drag as the club down the road. You got to look at all of the circumstances that your equipment is going to be operated under and apply all of that information in choosing the correct drag. Drag manufacturers should have drags built for virtually all towing vehicles. I know we do. We have a drag that's built for anything from that Scandi you saw on the photo up to the 16-foot wide drags that you saw behind that Challenger. So drag manufacturers should have a drag built for your needs. You want to get recommendations from the drag manufacturers when you're looking for drag. Get recommendations from the dealer that you buy your towing vehicle from. Get recommendations from other clubs. A lot of other clubs, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, as we all know in a lot of cases. You know, ask adjacent clubs or other clubs how their particular candidates work with the drag person. Okay, so now we got the right drag being towed by the right towing vehicle. So let's take a look at what's happening. What is the drag doing to create that perfectly flat, smooth, long-lasting trail? Or more importantly, if you're not getting that perfectly flat, smooth, long-lasting trail, what do you need to do? What do you need to change to make that happen? So it's absolutely critical that an operator of a groomer understands his towing vehicle, right? It's absolutely critical that he understands the vehicle that he's operating because it's a high horsepower big unit that he needs to understand to make it work properly. To understand its performance capabilities, also to understand its limitations. The operator needs to know that cat. And it's just as important that the operator knows his drag. It's critical that an operator understands what his drag is doing to get that best possible trail. And the reason it's so important is when the drag isn't doing its job, the operator knows something's wrong, I gotta do something. Why isn't this drag working the way it used to? If you don't understand how a drag works, you've never experienced it doing a real good job, how are you gonna know when it's not doing a good thing? So it's important that you understand what a drag is doing, how it makes that trail, so you can make some changes if necessary when it's not doing. So there's basically 3 steps in. Okay, 3 steps to a perfect trail. Step 1, cutting them over. This is the most obvious step, right? I mean, we all know we gotta cut the most. This is the most obvious one, and this is the step in grooming the trail that the operator has the most control over. The operator sitting in that cat has most control over this step right here, cutting those moguls. We all know that snowmobile traffic causes moguls, and moguls are just those bumps consisting of hills and valleys and hills and valleys and hills and valleys. That's what moguls are all about. Snowmobile traffic, as well as the groomers traveling over the trails, are continually packing and compressing the snow on that trail. As the season progresses, that packed snow gets thicker and thicker on that trail. That packed snow at the bottom of those valleys, at the bottom of the valleys of those moguls, that's what we call a trail base. Okay, that hard packed snow that is at the bottom of the valleys of those moguls, that's our trail base, and we need that. We need our trail base. It takes a long time, a lot of effort to get a trail base, and we don't want to disturb it. We don't want to disturb that trail base, which is the snow at the bottom of the valleys along the length of that trail. We don't want to touch that. What we do want to disturb, what we do want to get rid of completely is the moguls. We want to cut those moguls out completely, take them off right from the top of the mogul, right down to the valley of the mogul, but no lower. We don't want to get into that trail base at all. We need that trail base. We need that trail base to stay there throughout the grooming season, but we need to take those moguls out. Completely removing the mogul is done in steps by a drag. Okay, the first set of blades takes a little bit of the mogul off, takes the top of the mogul off. The next set of blades will take a little bit more, and so on until finally the last set of blades in your drag will take the last of that mogul off completely. So what you've got now is you've got the mogul completely wiped out from the trail system, but the trail base not touched at all. The moguls are gone, the trail base is still there. That hard packed trail base is still there. So as you're grooming, as you're operating, watch that snow as it's working in the drag. You want to carry as much snow in that drag and set the drag to where it needs to be to cut those moguls out completely. You don't want to carry too much snow low so that it spills out the drag. Okay? You want to keep that snow contained in the drag, contained on the trail system. You don't want to lose that snow. And you don't want to be cutting too deep so you're cutting into that trail base. So a small adjustment to the front of the drag makes a huge difference on how much snow is carried on. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but a little tap on your hydraulic control moves the drag sometimes half an inch or an inch up or down at the front. It makes a big difference in how much snow that the drag is carrying. So you want to watch what's happening in the drag, and you want to make adjustments as necessary to keep the amount of snow in the drag that you need to get those moguls cut out. So if everything's working the way it's supposed to, what used to be hard-packed moguls is now a bunch of loose snow that's contained in the hopper in front of your drag's pan. And that loose snow is laying over that hard trail bed. So you in just 20 feet of, if you think about this, the drag has been pulled along in its own length, which is 18, 20 feet, give or take. In only that short distance, your drag has been able to take those out, the moguls out completely, right down to the bottom of the valley of those moguls, and put that snow in front of the pan in a nice loose consistency across the width of the pan. So, and that's going to happen for every mile of your grooming shift. Every 20 feet of movement on that drag, it's taking those moguls out completely. And it takes knowledge of the towing vehicle, it takes knowledge of the drag to do this, but it can be done. It's critical to know that you're doing this. So how are you going to find out if you're doing this? What you want to do is you want to stop your cat every once in a while. Get out, go to the back of the drag, look at that snow that you've just groomed at the back of the pan, and kick that snow. It's been compacted, but it's still loose enough. You're going to be able to kick it out. Kick that snow out and see if there's any moguls left. If there's any moguls left, when you're kicking that snow, if you see there's still part of the mogul left, that's no good. Because in no time at all, you cannot take the top of a mogul and put it into the valley of the next mogul, and so on and so on. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have a hard spot followed by a contour with a bunch of soft snow in it, and so on and so on. And in no time at all, the snowmobile traffic is going to pound that trail right back to moguls in no time at all. So it's critical that you get back on the back of the drag, kick the snow out, and see if you've taken the moguls out completely. If you have, perfect. If you haven't, if there's still some moguls there, now you know, okay, maybe I gotta set my drag down a little lower. I gotta take more of a bite to get that mogul taken out completely. The other thing you wanna do is make sure you haven't cut into the trail base. This gets a little more difficult, but how can you check for that? Go to the front of the drag where you haven't groomed yet, and just take a look at the level of the bottom of those moguls. What's that level there? Kind of compare that, go to the back again, and say, okay, the level of the bottom moguls at the front is right about there, at the back. So it looks like I'm getting down to the base without cutting that base away. That gets a little bit more difficult than actually looking for any leftover moguls, but you can do it. So if you do this a number of times during your grooming shift, watch the drag as you're operating, and get out of the drag to see what the results are that you're creating. You're gonna be able to, at some point in time, and it shouldn't take too long, you're gonna be able to understand, okay, when this drag is working, like I'm watching it there now, that's the point that I need that drag to work at to get those moguls taken out the best. When that drag is working the way it's working, I can feel this cat, I can feel the engine, I can feel the cat working. Because there's a difference between rolling a cat up to one extent and not another, and a good operator can feel that. And it won't take long if you take the time to get out of that drag, or out of that cat, and look at the results of what you're doing before you're going to be able to know, I don't have to get out because I know what my drag is doing. I know I'm producing the best results. If you just sat in your cat and you looked out the rear view mirror and you looked at what you see behind the drag, you're thinking it's perfect. Because what are you seeing? You're seeing smooth snow that's laid out, man, it looks good. But it's not necessarily good if there's still moguls at the bottom of the, underneath that smooth snow, and it's not good if it takes too much of that trail base. Grooming after a significant snowfall now becomes a bit of a problem to cut all the moguls away, because it's physically impossible for a drag to take all of the moguls out after a big snowfall. You just can't do it. There's no way the blades can get down deep enough to get to those moguls. So what happens after a significant snowfall? Now you rely on the drag to create a new trail base over those moguls that are down. There's no getting around that. There's nothing you can do to take out moguls completely after a big snowfall. So that's when you rely on that good quality drag that you chose to allow it to do its job and create a new trail base over the existing one that's there. But when conditions allow, and that should be more often than not, you want to get rid of all of the memory of those moguls. That's gonna be your conditions more often than not. You're going to be able to take all those moguls out, and that's critically important, and that's what you want to do. The next step in grooming a trail is processing the snow. There's a number of steps involved in processing the snow on a trail that's achieved by a good quality drag. And these steps are achieved more by the design of the drag than by operator skill, but again, it's important that you understand what these steps are. At any given time on a snowmobile trail, there could be all kinds of different types of snow. There could be hard packed snow that's been packed by those snowmobilers over your last week shift. It could be freshly fallen snow, and lots of times there's snow that has had the heck kicked out of it. It's got no consistency to it. It's pounding. You couldn't make a snowball with it if you tried. So that at any given time, there could be all kinds of different types of snow on your trail. Now, what you want to do, what the drag needs to do, and this happens with the design of the drag with angle blades and whatnot, the angle blades are going to mix up that snow, going to mix those different types of snow and blend those different types of snow together by moving the snow back and forth. That's why angle blades are so important, not only to cut those lows, because an angle blade will cut the low better than a straight blade, but also important to mix those various types of snow that are on the trail. The other thing, the curved face of the blade will, as the snow is moving inside to outside, vice versa, the snow is rolling forward, again helping to blend that snow. It's de-aerating the snow. It's not going to air the snow. If there's fresh snow that's fallen, it's breaking the sharp points off the individual snowflakes as it's moving the snow back and forth and rolling in. So all of those things are happening to blend that snow. Another thing that can happen, again, this is difficult to see, but the temperature of that snow can actually be rising somewhat, because there's friction that takes place. Anytime two objects meet, there's friction. Just because the snow is pointing below doesn't mean there's not friction there. So that the temperature of that snow could be rising somewhat from the friction created by moving that snow, cutting, working, which can help in the processing of the snow. And then what happens after it's worked back and forth, it winds up, all the snow winds up at the back of that compacting pan at the back. And it's very important for all of these things to happen for the last step that the drag has to do, and that's the compact is so once again, the drag's taken all the moguls out, processed all that snow. Now that snow is laying in the hopper in front of the packing pan, spread out nice and evenly across the width of that packing pan. And then finally, that processed snow that used to be moguls is squeezed under the pan. It's squeezed under the pan as the pan is being pulled forward, and it gets pressed and compacted by the force of the weight that's pushing down over the length and width of that packing pan. The result that you have is that tabletop smooth trail that we're all looking to achieve. So those are the 3 steps that you need to do to get that good quality trail. And there's a 4th step that's absolutely critical to getting the length of time that the trail is going to last, and that's setup time. The longer the setup time before the traffic gets over it again, the harder that trail is going to set up, the harder it's going to freeze, and the longer it's going to last. So the longer the setup time before your snowmobile trail traffic gets back on it, the harder that trail is going to set up, the longer it's going to last. Now, there's a number of things that should be done, if possible, during a grooming shift. Besides what we just talked about, there's a number of things that an operator can do to help the drag do its job and to get that trail even better. One of the most important things you can do, if possible, is groom at night. There's a number of advantages to grooming at night, and they are significant. First of all, temperatures are colder, which can help the drag to process the snow more effectively. Cold snow below freezing will work through the drag far better than warmer snow that's sticky. Cold snow is not sticky. It'll work through the drag. It'll roll. It'll slide sideways. It'll work far better in a drag than warm snow. So grooming at night is going to give you that advantage. Your drag is going to be able to do a better job because it's working in snow that's going to flow better. Secondly, and we talked about this, grooming at night means colder temperatures. The colder temperatures, the harder that trail is going to freeze and the longer it's going to last. The third big advantage to grooming at night, in most cases, is there's less snowmobile traffic. So giving that trail the time it needs to set up is going to be far better grooming at night because your snowmobile traffic is significantly less at night than it is during the day. And then a fourth advantage is safety. A groomer operating at night with all those lights on it and flashers is very visible to the snowmobiler out there. Just like the snowmobiler out there is far more visible to the groomer operator at night than he would be during the day. So there's a lot of advantages to grooming at night. Some areas just can't do it, and if that's the case, so be it. But if you can, you should groom at night. A trail that's consistently groomed at night is going to stay groomed long. There's no question about that. It means that the trail won't have to be groomed as often, which could save you a considerable amount of money over a season. Or it means that between grooming shifts, the riding experience that your snowmobilers have will be a better one. Okay, so there's a significant advantage to it. The other thing you want to do is groom at the right speed. The speed is very critical when it comes to creating that proper trail. What we described earlier, that drag being able to do with just 20 feet of movement, it takes time for that drag to do that. It takes time for that drag to do all that work in just 20 feet of movement. That's a lot of work for that drag. It takes time for that drag to do that. Ideal grooming speed is between 6 to 8 miles an hour, 10 to 13 kilometers per hour, give or take. You can tweak that up a little bit if you have to. Ideally 6 to 8, 10 to 13. 6 to 8 miles an hour, 10 to 13 kilometers an hour. Grooming too fast, besides not giving the drag enough time to do its job, can throw snow out of the drag. When that's precious snow, as we all know at times, we need to keep that snow inside the drag. We don't want to throw it out. Too fast, we'll do that. Too fast, the blades can't be as aggressive as they need to be to cut those moguls. When your trail is very badly mobile, you're actually better to slow that cat down. Get it down to 4 or 5 miles an hour, get that drag down there, and let those blades really work. The slower the drag is being pulled, the more aggressive those blades can be. The faster the drag is pulled, the less aggressive the blades can be. So you can't be moving along too fast because the blades can't be aggressive enough as they need to be to completely remove those moguls, which is so important. Moving too fast is going to burn more fuel. No question about that. You pick that engine RPM up, 300 or 400 RPM, 400 or 500 RPM, from one operator to another, and calculate the difference in fuel that you're consuming. It's significant. It's huge, and fuel is expensive. Moving too fast is going to cause undue stress on your towing vehicle and on your cat, on your towing vehicle and on your drag. And by undue stress, I mean unnecessary stress, and most importantly, very expensive stress. You're gonna have far more wear on your cat moving at higher speeds than you are at lower speeds. You do more damage to your drag moving at higher speeds than at lower speeds. And the other thing is, so that's going to cost you more money. The other thing is, grooming too fast isn't going to get you the best quality trail. As much as you think, man, we just got this trail done in record time. You didn't produce the best quality trail. If you don't produce the best quality trail, it's going to get pounded out a lot quicker. You're going to have to get back out there and prove it sooner than you would have had you slowed down, done the perfect job that your drag can do for you. Get the drag to the best possible conditions to make it last as long. You're not going to have to get out there as often to groom it. It'll save you some dough. Fuel is absolutely horrendously priced today. You don't need to be burning fuel unnecessarily, and if you're not making the best quality trail, that means you got to get out there. Grooming again is going to cost you. Here's the blade. Okay, most towing vehicles out there have a blade on the cat. You want to use the blade on your cat if conditions allow, and by conditions I mean sufficient snow on the trail. Okay, that's critical to using a blade. A blade on a snow cat is just that, it's a snow blade. It's not a dozer blade, it's a snow blade. They don't take a lot of abuse. If you're using your blade, bouncing off rocks and stumps, no time at all that blade's going to be definitely just went through a year war. So a skill skilled operator can do a lot of grooming. If there's snow on that trail, a skilled operator with a blade can do a lot of the work before the drag even gets to do its job. We talked about how you got to remove all the moguls on that trail. The drag's got to get all those moguls completely. Let your drag do some of that work, or your blade, sorry, do some of that work. Put your blade down and take some of those moguls out. You're not going to take them all out, and you're not going to make a perfect quality trail. It's not like you leave your drag at home and use your blade to make a trail. You ain't going to do that. But you can use that blade to take some of the moguls out. The other thing we talked about is processing the snow, how important it is to roll that snow and mix it and blend it and de-aerate it and do all those good things. Let the blade do some of that. These blades that are on these cats, you can roll snow in front of you and not move a snowflake off of the trail. You can contain all of that snow in front of you as the blade is rolling. So use the blade to do as much work as possible before the drag gets to do its final. What's that going to do? It's just going to improve the quality of the trail that you're going to be producing. A blade's also a must push back the snow on corners or the snow that the snowmobiles are pushing out on corners. The blade's a must to get that snow back in on the trail so that the drag can process it. So a blade is absolutely critical for that kind of work, to get that snow that's pushed out from the outside of the corner back into where you need it. Learning to use a blade effectively takes time and it takes snow. There's a lot of good blade operators out there, but there's far more operators out there that don't have the skills necessary to use a blade effectively. There's a lot to learn about operating blade, but it's critical that you learn that. Trial and error is good. And if you have a good skilled blade operator that you can learn from, that's by far the best you can. But just trial and error. You need snow, as I said, to use that blade effectively. But get out there and work that blade and use it to your advantage. The critical thing when you're using a blade, when you're learning a blade, is don't be high-balling. You know, slow the cat down, and you don't want to be moving along too fast and have to worry about what's this blade going to do. Slow it down and learn how to use that blade. Because in the hands of a skilled operator, a quality multifunction blade like we have on these new generation cats is a vital tool that's going to get you the best possible trail. So learn how to use your blade. What's that? That's another very shit. Okay. Okay. So operators manuals are critical. For a towing vehicle, of course, it's very important that operators read their operator's manual for the towing vehicle, but by the same token, it's very important that you read the operator's manual for your drag if there's one available. There's a lot of good information in there on safety, how to get the most out of the cat, learning its limitations, so operator's manuals are critical. Maintenance of a drag is very, very important. There's so many clubs that have a very meticulous, good quality maintenance schedule for their towing vehicles. They do a very good job of preventive maintenance to make sure the drag doesn't break down on the trail, so cost them a big cost of downtime. But many of those same clubs forget about the drag. They don't have it's not included in their maintenance schedule to look at the drag. But it's very, very important that your drag is maintained. Just because a drag doesn't have an engine or transmission doesn't mean it's not going to wear out or require adjustment or clean up. So include a drag in your maintenance schedule. Very, very important. And one of the most important things you can do in maintenance is your blades have to be adjusted to factory settings. Again, we talked about how many drags out there, blades out of adjustment, there's a pile of them. It's very important that blades are adjusted to the proper position. If you think about it, every drag has side rails. That's those rectangular tubes on the bottom of your drag, left side, right side. The blades of your drag have to be below the level of those side rails. If they're not, they can't reach the moguls. They can't get into the moguls to cut the moguls. So yeah, your blades have to be set to a point below the level of those side rails. but not too deep. They have to be set to the proper spec. If you set them too deep, the drag isn't going to follow along properly. The pan isn't going to be able to pan the way it's supposed to. Setting the drags to the proper level is very key. The other thing to be careful of is a lot of clubs will change the wear strips that are under the side.